GIMP 2.8 has been released, and it includes a bunch of new brushes and a new brush interface that gives you more control over the brush characteristics. In this video, I'll show you some of the new brushes and I'll explain how to use the new interface. Since there are now so many useful brushes, I made samples of each of them and put them on my website so that you can easily see how they look. Let's take a quick look at that, and then I'll show you how to use the new brush interface. Open your browser and go to littlewebhut.com. Click on GIMP up here at the top, and then come down here and click on Brushes. This page shows thumbnail images of the brush samples. Let's click on Acrylic 01 to see the details for this brush. Some of the brushes produce multiple patterns, so I click the mouse 3 times, here, here, and here, to show 3 pattern variations for this brush. Then I drew a straight line with the brush. Here you can see that the multiple patterns that this brush produces results in a line with variable thickness. These 3 samples here and this straight line were done with a brush size of 200. I then drew 2 curved lines, one with a brush size of 20 and one with a brush size of 5. Not all of the brushes produce multiple patterns. For example, let's go back to the thumbnails and select the star brush. As before, I generated 3 samples, but you can see that they're all the same. So now let's go back to GIMP and look at the brush interface. This button selects the brush, and you might notice that some of the brushes have a little red triangle at the bottom right side of the brush symbol. This means that the brush produces multiple patterns that I just showed you. To adjust the size of the brush, just place your cursor on this size slider here and hold the mouse button, and then you can drag this to the left and right to change the size. If the cursor shows 2 lines with an up arrow, then this is set to do chorus adjustments. If you let go of the mouse button and pull the mouse down just a little bit, the cursor will change to 2 lines with a left and a right arrow. Now if I press the mouse button and drag, I get fine adjustments. You can also double click on the number here and then enter values in directly. And if you press this little button off to the right side, it'll set it to the default value for this particular brush. And then you can just set the color that you want for the foreground, and then go over to your canvas and click or drag. We also now have a control for the aspect ratio. And to show you that, let me first size up this brush a little bit. And then you can see right now that this brush is just a circle. But if I come down here to the aspect ratio and I move this to the left a little bit, now you can see that the brush shape has changed. So I've changed the aspect ratio to be taller than it is wide. And if I go the other direction, now the brush is wider than it is tall. So I can also control the angle of the brush. If I pull this slider to the left, I can get a negative angle. And if I pull the slider to the right, I get a positive angle. And I can use these buttons here on the right to reset these to 0 value. And you can also set the opacity of the brush using this slider up here. We also have 3 checkboxes here, one for apply jitter, one for smooth stroke, and one for incremental. To see how these work, let's first draw a line without any of these being checked. And I'm going to set my size of the brush back to its default value. And I'll just draw a diagonal line. And now I'll click on the Apply Jitter. And now when I draw the same line, you'll see that it's jagged. And you can control the amount of that by setting this number right here. So now let me turn this off. And now I'm going to set this to smooth stroke. And now when I draw a diagonal line, it's nice and smooth. So this will smooth out any jitter that I would naturally have in my mouse. And you can control the amount of smoothing with these numbers right here. And now let's select incremental. And I'm going to change the size of our brush so that we can see what this does a little bit easier. I'll just draw a straight line from left to right. And you can see that it makes a line as if you were incrementally pressing and releasing your mouse button as you draw. And it's easy to see with this line because we have our opacity set to 57%. If it were set to 100%, we would still get the effect, but it would be harder to see. So you can see that we have a lot of control over these brushes now that we can adjust not only the size, but also the aspect ratio and the angle. And there are some very nice brushes now included with GIMP. Now I'll show you how you can easily create a background that looks dirty and grungy. So to do that, I'm going to first clear out all of this that I've done so far. And so I'll just select all and then hit the delete key. And then I'm going to choose a foreground color of dark brown. And there's a brush here that's called Texture Hose 3. And I'm going to use that with a size of about 700. And let me turn off this incremental here. Then as you can see, I have a very big brush. So I'm just going to start in the left-hand corner and just click around until I fill up this area. And it doesn't take too many clicks since this brush is so large. And then I'll choose a brush called Sponge 1. And I'll just flip these colors right here so that I can have white as my foreground color. And I'll set this brush to a size of about 500. And then I'll just click a few times around the image here. And so using these new brushes, I've just very easily and quickly created this background. Well, that concludes this video. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe and leave a comment.